Hello, and welcome back to the Nourish with Purpose podcast. I hope you are having a great Wednesday or whenever you're listening to this episode. This is truly one of my favorite times of the week, so I'm really excited to talk with you today, especially about this podcast episode specifically because we're talking about winter wellness, which is something that I think is so important as it starts getting colder outside. We had our first snow here in Nebraska, so it's just a time when I really think it's important that we put our wellness first, and it doesn't have to be in any extreme way. So hopefully you leave today with some tangible steps that you can take towards improving your wellness, boosting your immunity, but not in a way that feels overwhelming or confusing. Before we do that, I just want to catch up with you a little bit, talk about how I'm nourishing my mind, body, and spirit. I hope you all had a really great Thanksgiving, had some special time with family or friends, whoever you find yourself with this holiday or this Thanksgiving. And if you were by yourself, hopefully you found a way to enjoy that time and take it as a time of rest and recuperating for kind of those 3 weeks we've got to power through until we have Christmas, which is crazy. I had a really great Thanksgiving. We had one on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, all such good food. Although I will say I'm not really a Thanksgiving or traditional Thanksgiving food type of gal. When we went to my grandma's on Friday, they had made ribs and brisket, and I'm like, okay, this is my type of meal. I'm not a turkey gal. I do love stuffing, but everything else, mashed potatoes, not so much. I don't know, but it was good. We had a good variety of food, and most importantly, got to spend it with our family, which is always the highlight of the holiday. And then food, of course, is a good piece to that as well. What else has been going on? I also today, now that you're listening, I'm recording this on Tuesday. This episode goes live tomorrow, but I released my recipe guide in a hard copy form, which is something I've been working on for so long. And not because it took me so long, but to find a service that would do it and not charge me up the wazoo to print these books. And so I got that done, and the thing is I had so many clients throughout the last year because I released the recipe guide probably about a year ago. The hard copy, though, I made some updates, changes, and added some recipes in. But clients were like, I really want this in a hard copy. And I don't know, it was just a process for me to find that. So I finally pulled the trigger. I did it. I invested in doing that. And I'm really excited with how they turned out. They are for sale, but they're limited quantity. So I'll link them below if there's still some available. But I only was able to sell 16 because I previously had 22 orders that I fulfilled. And then now I have 16 left that I'm able to sell. So I would encourage you to grab one of those if you're interested, but really I'm just so proud of that and wanted to share that with you today. Outside of Thanksgiving, though, there's really not too many updates, so I'm going to get into the segment of how I'm nourishing my mind, body, and spirit. So how I'm nourishing my mind is yesterday I was walking on the treadmill and I read the book Satisfied, or the Digital Guide, by my friend Lyndon. It's an ebook, and if you have not read it, it is so darn good. You should get a copy because there was just so much value in it. Lyndon really does such a great job of talking about seasonal wellness and also how you can use food to support your body and your blood sugar and your hormones. And all of it was just so holistically based, a lot of traditional or ancient remedies for traditional Chinese medicine. And it was just so darn good. And I can't say that enough because it's like 40 pages, but it's packed full of so much value. And so I did that when I was walking yesterday, and it was just a good way to nourish my mind. I was also moving my body, which is something I have been continuing to incorporate into my day-to-day, is those midday walks. When we got a treadmill, I knew I wanted one because I get so tired of sitting and I have used it so much. That is something I'm going to talk about later today. But if you have not invested in a treadmill yet, look on Facebook Marketplace, get a walking pad. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but that has been a huge change, like game changer in how I feel into these colder months, just because you're still able to move your body and it's typically much warmer than being outside. And so I just love the treadmill, but I usually try to do something while I'm walking, which I am a notorious multitasker, not saying that is something that you need to do because I should do it less probably, but I like to read or catch up on like a YouTube channel that I really like to watch, just doing something so the time goes faster, but also I'm moving my body rather than just like laying around and reading. To me, it just feels a lot better. I notice I also think way more clearly afterwards and while I'm walking because I'm moving my body while I'm learning. How I'm nourishing my body right now, in addition to walking, I'm also amping up the fresh and colorful fruits and vegetables, fresh herbs, and those quality proteins and breads. And I'm doing this mostly, I always strive to do this, but after Thanksgiving, I ate just a lot of foods that I don't typically consume, which is totally fine. All the food was so good. It was just made in a way probably different than how I make it at home. And that's not a criticism at all. It's just how it is. We all have different ways of making food and preparing it. Again, everything I ate was so good, but it was just different. Thanksgiving food typically is a little bit heavier with the stuffing and the potatoes and the sweet potato casseroles and the green bean casseroles, all of that. And also with some dairy being included in my diet, which is something that I noticed like conventional dairy will irritate my skin. I've mentioned before I'm lactose intolerant, and that usually is something that'll set off my complexion to just be terrible. And so I've been breaking out. So I know that that is a sign that my body just needs that high quality food, nutrient dense foods, really focusing on, again, those greens, leafy greens, adding cilantro and parsley into my food. Those are good herbs, as well as kale is another one, but really any fresh fruits or vegetables. I'm just really trying to amp up this week. I also made some immunity shots, which I'm going to share that recipe this week on Instagram, so you can use that recipe if you would just like an extra boost in these winter months, or if you notice you're getting a stuffy nose, it would be a great thing to add into your routine, which is what I'm doing as well. How I'm nourishing my spirit is we decorated for Christmas this 2 weekends ago, but then this last week I just was blaring the Christmas music and dancing around, and that's not something I do all the time, so it was just fun to have music going in the house, be moving, dancing, all of the things, and I'm not nearly as obnoxious as I know I was growing up or even in high school and probably college. I've mellowed out a little bit. I would say my husband is a big indicator of that. He's very calm, which I think translates into me being a little bit more calm now. I also don't teach dance anymore. I taught dance for, 4 or 5 years. I still sometimes do choreography for teams in the summer. So I just don't get that outlet anymore. So it was just fun to be able to do that. And I love Christmas music and decorating for Christmas. Our house is very festive now, and it just makes me so happy to have the Christmas tree on 24/7. We don't even shut it off at night. I just love the glow of the Christmas tree. All the little things around the house that just make this time of the year so special. But with that, maybe we should just get into winter wellness now that we're talking about Christmas. Winter is here. If you live in a warm state, this is probably a little less applicable to you, but you're still going to be able to find nuggets of value. I know that. But living in Nebraska, I would say, or the Midwest in general, we're kind of notorious for complaining about the weather, I would say, especially because it's very unpredictable. And on the days when we have sunshine and it's warm is just, we're not going to stop talking about it. If it's nice outside, we don't stop talking about it. If it's cold and gross outside, we're not going to stop talking about it. The weather is a big conversation starter here, which I love. No hate to that. It's just funny. But also with that comes the colder weather here. And I would say for most people, that's the downside of winter. We love the fresh falling snow, right? The first snow of the season. It's fun. It's still romanticized. But as the winter dreads on, and say we get to like end of January, I'm just absolutely disgusted with winter, and I'm ready for it to be spring. So when I was talking about this, actually my husband had the idea that I should talk about this today. And his number one tip was that if you can afford to, you should leave the cold for a warmer destination for the winter, And although, yes, that sounds wonderful, I would say for most people that's not realistic. We've got responsibilities here. We've got things we need to take care of. We have homes that we need to pay for, and we don't have the finances to do that. But if you can, and if you're flying somewhere warm for the winter, please know that I'm very jealous and that I would love to tag along. But with that aside, I have 4 tips that I really want you to embody this winter if you notice that you really hate those colder months and you just notice you're getting sick all the time. I hope that this helps you to both combat that, but also have different ideas that you've maybe never heard of to help support both your mood and your body as it gets colder outside. You know what I hate? Being bloated, but having no idea why that's happening. That was me for years, in alignment with also living with chronic low back pain. And I was so fed up with it that I finally took my health into my own hands and really started evaluating my diet and how I was moving my body to not only heal the chronic inflammation that was coming from my low back pain, but heal my bloating. If you're listening and you're like, yep, that's me. I'm always bloated. I always feel uncomfortable. I have a solution for you. I have created a one-on-one coaching program that is focused primarily on helping you decrease the overall inflammation in your body through examining various foods and how they affect your body, intolerances that you might have, as well as incorporating the anti-inflammatory diet, which is really just adding in more whole foods to reduce any signs of inflammation and stress that you have in your body. So inflammation can show up in 7 different areas. So bloating and chronic pain is not just the case. This could also be brain fog, fatigue, swelling, acne, water retention, poor quality of sleep, low energy, constipation, diarrhea. I mean, there's a long list, don't get me wrong. So I'm sharing this with you today because I have some really exciting news happening around this program. Right now, it is a 16-week program, which is about 4 months. And I'm going to make it into a 6-month program, which means there are 8 extra modules and weeks for us to work one-on-one together, which I just think is going to provide even more value and really make these habits very long-lasting. I've already worked with many women throughout this program, with it being 16 weeks, and they've seen incredible results. But I just want to add a couple more months together. And why I'm telling that to you is because I'm actually offering those next 2 months for free. So if you sign up for one-on-one coaching before December 23rd, you actually get the last 2 months free. So you're only paying for 4 months of coaching, but we're spending 6 months together. I really have such a passion for making quality care accessible to most. This is something that I wish I would have had while I was going through my 3 to 4 year process of trying to figure out what was going on in my own body. But we can do that together in 4 months, or now in 6 months. I know there are so many expenses that come up during the holiday season, which is why I want to offer this to you, as well as let you know that I have payment plans for whatever situation you might find yourself in. Just know that I want to work with you to make this possible. I will have the link below in the show notes for both the application, but also the website link to learn more about what is offered in this program. And then we can talk so you can learn more about what's going to be included in those bonus 2 months that we would have together. If you are currently a client, don't worry, you also get this deal. But I wanted to offer this to anybody who's been on the fence about coaching. This is probably the time for you to consider committing, and I would love to just open up that conversation with you. I look forward to talking to you soon and helping you not only decrease your bloating, but all of the other symptoms or signs that you're experiencing, and let's focus on healing together. So number 1 is going to be embracing the changing seasons. This is more so for me because I don't typically do this very well. So what you can do here is make a list of what you love in each season. So winter, spring, summer, fall. And then in the winter months, when you're writing that out, really think about and embrace what you love about it, right? Because more often than not, I probably complain about how cold it is. I'm going to change that, and we're going to change the narrative, and we're going to focus on what we love about the winter. Not saying you have to be positive all the time, but I think this could help a lot, especially if you write the list and have it maybe on your desk or on your computer, somewhere where you're going to see it. It might help your mood during this time of the year. So I really want you to think about your senses. So this would be sight, smell, taste, sound, and touch. So some examples when I was thinking about this was like baking Christmas cookies, right? You've got the smell of the sugar cookie. You've got the sight of the colorful frostings in the different shapes, right? You can really like go down the line and think of how all of that plays into your senses. Maybe decorating gingerbread houses. Last year, we did a gingerbread house competition with my family, which was really fun. So it was my brother and his girlfriend, me and my husband, Nate, and then my parents. We're all on a team and we competed, and then we sent photos to different people to have them vote on who they thought won. Also, another idea would be lighting candles and online shopping for Christmas gifts. Maybe you're in some cozy PJs, or putting up a real Christmas tree, thinking about the smell of that. One thing I will note is we don't do a real Christmas tree, but I do have a candle that I light each year that smells like a Christmas tree, or I think it's like a fir scented. It's from my friend Delaney, her candle company, Waxed. If you don't follow that, side note, really good candles, clean candles, low tox candles. I love them. And I'm getting a candle from her this year that smells like a Christmas tree. Previous years, honestly, I don't even know, probably Bath and Body, which I won't get started on that, but I really, really like to have a candle that smells like a Christmas tree if I don't have a real one, right? Maybe another idea would be making hot chocolate or coffee and driving around with family or friends to look at Christmas lights. Or another option would be giving someone a gift or volunteering at a shelter that needs help. I feel like during this time, there's a lot of shelters that need donations or volunteers to serve meals. So something that you could get involved in, something I really need to get better at doing. I feel like I did a lot of that in college, and then as I've gotten older, I've lost touch with that. But I think that would be something that would be very important or very helpful to those different facilities, is just to show up on a Saturday or during the week if you can, volunteer and see where they need help this season. But again, really just thinking about all of the things you love about winter and thinking about also how you can add more of that into your day to day, right? The examples I gave are probably not things you're doing day to day, but throughout the next 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I think you could sprinkle some of those ideas in and notice that it just improves your mood because you're a little less focused on maybe the negative side that comes with the holidays, because it's not all happy, right? There's a lot of sad things that happen around this time of year, but also, with weather or maybe finances are tight around this time of the year, thinking about creative ways that you can still embrace this season. Number 2 is going to be combating the colder weather. Again, if you live somewhere warm, maybe not as applicable, but for me, this looks like getting a red light and sitting under it each morning or evening for 10 to 20 minutes. I have not invested in a red light yet, but I do have these glasses and they are kind of like an orangey tint shade, but they filter out blue light and harsh lighting, which then in return translates to your eyes more as a red light, which I really am loving those. I use them when I watch TV and when I'm on my phone in the evenings. And I shouldn't say I've been loving them. I just got them a couple days ago, but so far, so good. I really am enjoying them. But why I talk about red light is because it's a really low light wavelength that your body, or that can power your body's cells. And the specific part of the cell is the mitochondria. I feel like every time I say that, I think the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Like, we learn that all the time in elementary. And I think that's like the one scientific tip that I've taken away from all of those years. But these low light waves then make your cells more efficient so they can boost new cell growth and stimulate collagen and fibroblast production, which is actually what makes collagen. It also can increase your blood circulation and reduce inflammation in your cells. I more than anything love red light because it's a great way to combat the blue light that you're absorbing throughout many devices throughout the day, right? Thinking of your phone, computer, the TV. That's why I wear these glasses when I'm watching TV in the evenings, because you're going to notice if you're getting a lot of blue light exposure, especially because the sun is setting earlier, it's getting dark earlier, and then the glow of the blue light is so harsh on your eyes. Wearing something that's going to protect from that glare is really helpful. But even just like I had said, 10 to 20 minutes before bed of turning off your devices, having no blue light exposure, and turning on a red light is going to be really beneficial for your overall health. And it's warm, right? There's also these blankets, and I'm blanking on the name right now. Oh, Higher Dose, I think is what it's called. But they make these sauna blankets. I have always wanted one of those, but I know one day I'm going to invest in a red light sauna. So for the time being, I'm going to hold off on that. But I just truly love to be so warm. And I know that if you are unable to get that with the weather outside, one of the best ways you can do that is by buying a tool like red light, which is actually pretty affordable. If you get on Amazon or just look online, they're really not that expensive, but you're going to notice it really makes you warm, and it also benefits your health, your skin's complexion, all of the above. So I love that. Another way I try to stay warm in the colder months is sitting under a window when I'm working on my computer or I'm reading or studying, whatever it is just sitting in a place where the sun is directly shining on your face. I was actually on a coaching call yesterday and the sun was blaring in my face, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, because the lighting in my office is really bad if I move my desk. So then I end up just sitting right in the direct target of the sun. But I don't mind. It just looked a little funky on Zoom, but I love doing that whenever I can. So right now, as I'm recording this, I'm sitting right under a window. The sun is blaring on my face. It feels so good, so warm. And it makes me think that it's actually not that cold outside, which I know it really is. So I love sitting under a window. It's also a free way, right? You don't have to buy anything. The sun is free. It's a free way for you to get that sunshine and the warmth versus purchasing a red light or a sauna. The next one too would be a castor oil pack. So this is a pack with little beads, or it could have rice in it, and you put castor oil on it, and then you kind of wrap it to your abdomen area, kind of over that belly button, and it can relax your digestive system and reduce bloating, but it's also warm. I know a lot of people, when they get their periods, they put a heating pack on. That's a great way to stay warm. You can do that if you're not on your period, right? It's just another way for your body to feel that warmth, help improve your digestion. It also improves your lymphatic drainage. So there's lymphatic drainage massages that increase blood flow. And I could explain them to you, but really just look up a video on YouTube and you can follow that. That's something I do every single morning to stimulate blood flow in my body and lymphatic drainage, right? All of those toxins can get built up in your lymph nodes. So really massaging those, getting that out of your system. And then detoxifying the liver is another perk of a castor oil pack. So you might be like, well, why would I want to do that? What does that even mean? If your liver is high toxicity, you're going to notice that you have a lot of sugar cravings and potentially weight gain. So a toxic liver is unable to process those toxins in your body. And so then they're secreted into your bloodstream, and then they cause an immune response, which is what your body, that immune response is your body's defense system. So when this is alerted, you're also more likely to get sick because your defense system is targeting all of its energy or a lot of its energy into getting those toxins out of your bloodstream, that instead your other guard is down and you're more inclined to get a runny nose, right? Stuffy nose, sore throat, all of the above. It also, if you think about the feelings that affect the health of your liver, thinking back to traditional Chinese medicine, these feelings are resentment and anger, and those feelings can sometimes come up during these winter months. So if you notice that you have yellowish skin and eyes, abdominal pain, swollen ankles, or just unrelenting fatigue, that could be a sign that your liver needs to detoxify. A castor oil pack is not the only way to do that, but it is one of them. And like I said, it's another way for you to be warm. Number 3 is to build up your immune system. So for me, my brain immediately links this to eating foods that are easy to digest and very nutrient dense. So in the winter times, I think more about eating warming foods versus cooling foods. Okay, so cooling foods are great for spring and summer during those months where your body needs to cool off, whereas warming foods are great for fall and winter because your body wants to be warm. It's also typically very cold, so adding in those warming foods just makes it a little bit easier on your digestive system. So some examples of this would be having cooked vegetables versus raw, doing soups, pastas, warm breads, jellies, and jams made without any highly processed sugars, or applesauce or cooked apples versus having sliced raw apples. These, like I said, are easier for your body to digest, and especially because people are less active in these colder months, you might notice there's some stagnant energy in your body, which is also causing some constipation. So those warming foods are going to help with that. This doesn't mean that you have to neglect the nutrient density of whole foods, right? I'm not saying you should completely abandon eating any raw fruits or vegetables, but if you can, make them in a way that is warming. Adding them to a soup is honestly one of the easiest ways I've found to do this. One recipe that I love is a tikka masala noodle bowl type concoction, and I took inspiration from a recipe from the Pro Metabolic cookbook, which I can link below. But in this recipe, you ribbon carrots, which just means you use like a slicer to make them long and really thin. You also do cilantro, tikka masala type of seasoning packet. It's kind of like a tomato based sauce, and then I add in fresh onions, garlic, ginger, turmeric, all of these really immunity boosting spices, and I put that just over the stovetop with some bone broth and let it simmer there. I add in either steak or chicken as that protein source, and it's just so good. I also will then add in like a can of coconut milk. And so I'm getting the core 4, which is something I talk about very often. And if you have any questions on what that is, you can go to my Instagram page because I share a lot about that. But it's giving me all those components to make up a really balanced meal, but it's in one pot. It's super easy to make. You really just dump everything in and let it simmer. And adding in more meals like that in the winter is just kind of my number one tip when it comes to food. Food, I think, is a huge factor in sickness, which is why you'll also notice that you might get sick more often in the winter months. We often think, well, it's because we're socializing with Thanksgiving and Christmas. But I really think it more so has to do with the food and beverages that you're consuming around that time rather than being exposed to more people. Foods like those highly processed foods, what I would say more inflammatory foods, but also alcohol is a huge factor for why you get sick during this time. We think especially Christmas and New Year's, a lot of people celebrate that with high amounts of alcohol consumption, and that can really put your guard down and allow you to then be exposed or be more susceptible, I should say, to getting sick. I don't really believe that cold and flu season is primarily in the winter because there's a sudden outbreak, right, that we need to protect ourselves from. but rather we're just so much more sedentary. We're indoors more often. We're getting less fresh air. We have less sun exposure. We're eating less fruits and vegetables because honestly, sometimes when fruits and veggies aren't in season, they don't taste very good. So we just consume them less. And then we're also not touching living things like plants and grass and streams of water. And it might sound like, okay, a little too holistic, right? To think that makes that big of a difference, but it really does, right? When our feet touch the earth or we do grounding, right? That is something that is going to energize your body versus our feet are mostly in shoes in the winter. We don't touch the grass very often. I was even thinking about how much I crave having a garden. I hate just like sitting around all day. And in the winter months when it's dark outside by 5:30 or 5, maybe sometimes earlier, you don't want to go outside and do anything because it's already dark. And that is just something that I really miss in these colder months, is getting out and working in my garden or just spending time outside sweating, right? Our body is just kind of in that rested state in the winter, which is kind of what it's meant to do. I'll talk about that here in a bit too, about sleep. But we think about animals, they typically hibernate in the winter months and then wake up and they're active in the spring and summer, kind of into early fall. Us as humans have been programmed now to go 24/7 versus taking these colder months to relax, which is, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to relax and be more sedentary, but that is also why I think we notice, especially people that don't have exposure to warmer weather this season or time outside, is that we just get sick. And I really think food is a huge tool that we can use to boost our immunity. Another way you can get really nutrient-dense foods that are easy to digest is buying seasonal foods right now. I had said before, sometimes fruits and veggies that aren't in season just don't taste very good. Your next step then would be to buy those frozen. So if you think strawberries or blueberries taste awful right now, buy them frozen and use them that way. But other than that, seasonal foods typically are going to be blue, black, and purple foods. These are more of those rooted fruits and vegetables that have a longer shelf life, or they can stay fresh in dark and colder areas. So this would be Brussels sprouts, beets, pumpkins, apples, cranberries, cauliflower, kale, broccoli, butternut squash, carrots, onions, fennel, grapefruits, clementines, pears, a long list I just rattled off. But those are foods that you could be looking for that are still going to be really good in flavor because they are technically in season. And so I think too, a lot of the winter vegetables don't really sound too appealing to especially people that are just trying to eat a little bit healthier, and that's maybe fairly new. The first thing you go and buy is typically not going to be kale. But think about how you can utilize these ingredients in a recipe. I always say pick one new or unique food a week to try. So for example, like back to kale. Okay, eating a kale salad initially, if you've never had it before, is going to be kind of gross. But what you could do is make a chicken noodle soup and then mince or dice up some kale and put that in there and let it simmer for a little bit. You're going to get the benefits of the kale. It's already going to be broken down a little bit more, easier on your digestive system. And you're not really going to notice the flavor as much as you would as if it's in a salad. So that's typically how I approach these types of things, is I'm like, okay, a lot of those winter vegetables don't sound very appealing, but what can I maybe add them into so I don't notice so much of that flavor, right? And now I've gotten more comfortable eating them, but initially definitely wasn't. So I hope that was helpful for you to think about various ways you could add them into something without necessarily getting that raw taste. There's also immunity boosting fresh herbs and spices. So these would be herbs and spices like garlic. So garlic is really powerful in fighting viruses. It can really fight off and destroy bacteria, and it's really easy to cook with. Most of us have dried garlic in our homes, or you can buy fresh garlic. One ancient remedy is actually to do a clove of raw garlic and a spoonful of honey, and chewing that and swallowing it. You're going to notice that this is going to boost and fight something off. So if you are feeling yourself getting sick, I would highly recommend that, but also eat that or do that with food so your stomach doesn't overheat and you don't get an upset stomach. The next one is going to be licorice root. So this can help support and strengthen your immune system, and it provides anti-inflammatory properties. I'm not necessarily talking about the Twizzlers licorice, but rather you can buy licorice root chews online or maybe even at Whole Foods and just add that into your morning routine. The next one is ginger. I absolutely love ginger. I buy it fresh and I will either shred it and put it into like a carrot salad, or I will dice it up and then put it in the freezer so it stays fresh the longest, and then I'll add a couple slices of that ginger to sauteed vegetables or meats. This is because it is an antibacterial herb or spice, and it really gives a little spice, a little kick to those foods without being too overwhelming. I think it's something that is just so easy to add into any meal. And I honestly just love ginger. It's probably my number one used herb or spice. Yeah, it would be an herb. The next one is cinnamon. Cinnamon not only is great for balancing blood sugar, so if you are someone that insists on having your morning coffee, add a little splash, or a morning coffee before you have breakfast, add a little dash of cinnamon. It's going to help with that blood sugar. Of course, I would always say, please eat something before you have caffeine in the morning. But if you are adding some collagen powder to your coffee and that is the first thing to hit your system, add a dash of cinnamon. It also is antifungal and it can fight off infections and improve your immune function. It's just the best. I add this to almost any breakfast that I make because of the blood sugar benefit, but also because it is an antifungal and anti-inflammatory spice. Next couple that I use is oregano. I typically think if you can get herbs that are fresh, that is always best, but then you can also get dried. Oregano is one that I use dried, but I do try to buy fresh parsley and fresh cilantro. All herbs are great adaptogens and they can support your body in times of high stress and give you the boost that it needs to both stay healthy but also give you some stable energy. The other one is turmeric. This is a very, very, I would say, popular anti-inflammatory spice. Again, it also helps with immune support and it can naturally detoxify your body. All in all, turmeric is a powerhouse. So I add a dash of this to my immunity shots. I also will add it to, again, sauteed vegetables or steamed vegetables. I add it to my eggs in the morning. So many ways you can use it. I buy the powdered organic version, although, of course, the rooted vegetable in its whole form is going to be best. If you wanted to do very similar to like what I do with ginger, is just dice it up, freeze it, and then add a slice of it into a recipe that you're making. That's always an option as well. Finishing off with number 4 is to sweat it out. So just because it's colder outside, that doesn't mean that you can't move your body. I, like I had mentioned before, would highly recommend that you get a walking pad or a treadmill. But if that's not really in the budget this month or not something that you want to invest in, other options that I've done personally and love is closing the door to the warmest room in our house, and then I'll put on a sweatshirt and do like a 30-minute lifting or low impact workout. You're going to notice you sweat so much, and it's kind of like creating a sauna. Obviously, do this at your own discretion. If you have any health conditions that it's not a good idea for you to be sweating a lot or in really hot rooms and exercising, please, do what you need to do. But this is something I really love. It keeps me warm, but I also really sweat. This is something, I think when we get sick, we really just want to lay on the couch or take any sort of medicine that's going to make us feel better, when really I think moving your body can be a huge factor in helping you feel better. Again, use your own discretion. If you are so ill you can barely walk, don't force your body to do a high impact workout. This is more so if you just have a runny or stuffy nose, a sore throat. but you have enough energy that you could do something pretty low intensity, I would highly recommend you do that. Okay, it's going to get things moving. It's going to get things sweating out of your body. It's going to stimulate your digestive system to excrete any toxins in your body. If you're constipated or have diarrhea, it can help kind of minimize the feelings of that. Just moving your body is a huge piece that we start to do so much less, and I really think it's one that should not be forgotten. If you're not in the habit of exercising right now, don't take this as me saying you need to now go out and work out for an hour and a half, but take 20 minutes and walk on a treadmill. Okay, clean up your home. Do something very low intensity, but to the point where you're kind of working up a sweat, and take that as a good sign. That's a sign that your body is activating and that it's, you're getting energy from that. Your body's releasing endorphins that are going to make you so much happier. Seasonal depression is very real, and I think a huge factor, well, there's many, many factors, but with us getting less sun exposure, number one, but also moving our body less, like I said, those endorphins are not being released, and we are just kind of at a state of, I don't know, our emotions are just pretty level, or they really dip, and we notice a lot of depression and anxiety around this time. So moving your body, a big piece though of the puzzle. In addition to this though, I also want to say maybe moving your body less, which seems so counterintuitive, whatever, to what I've been saying before of like, hey, you should move your body, sweat it out, is also allowing your body to have more rest if it needs it. So don't discredit anything I've said previously to this, but if you notice that you want to sleep in a little bit more, you want to go to bed earlier, take that as a sign that your body needs that. Okay, typically the sign of it getting darker outside, melatonin is then produced in our body because it's a sign like, okay, like it's time to be winding down, it's getting dark outside. Typically that's when we go into that restful state. So don't force your body to do anything that it is not really wanting to do in these colder months. Okay, I'm not saying don't exercise because you hate exercise. That's more of an emotional response. I'm talking about a physical response, meaning like you can barely get out of bed in the morning before 7 o'clock because it's so dark and your body just wants to sleep. Right now, I truly feel like I could sleep forever and ever when I wake up in the morning. And I really struggled with this in the beginning because I'm like, okay, there's something else I'm doing. There's too much stress in my life. My oxidative stress levels are up the wazoo, when really I don't think that's true. I think it was just me trying to force my body to stay in the same rhythm it had been in all summer, when really my body needs extra rest. So, you think of a bear that's hibernating in winter. They sleep all winter long. They eat all fall, stock up all of those calories, so they don't need to wake up to really eat much food. They just sleep, hibernate, and then when it comes time for that warmer weather, they're active. We don't have the ability to do that, nor do I really think it would be that beneficial for us, but I really think that by being in tune with your body and not forcing anything is going to also be when you notice you get sick less. If you notice how stressed and active you are around the holiday season, I think especially like as moms, I cannot relate to this, but I have definitely seen it and I still see it, is that moms have a lot of responsibility, and dads, around Christmas time of getting gifts for their kids, making food, making sure they're reaching out to loved ones, they're planning gatherings, maybe planning vacations, whatever it is. There's just a lot happening in combination with also maybe holding a job or tending to somebody who is sick or having health struggles of your own. That is a lot of stress for you to be putting on your body. And so that is then, again, when you notice you get sick. So think about, how can I slow down in a way where my body feels supported? I'm not neglecting my health, but I'm also not forcing anything. And so for me, that's been sleeping in till 7 and not trying to feel so guilty about it. I feel like I definitely have in the past and still do feel guilty if I don't get up before 7. But I also have to remember that if my body is so tired that it's hard to get out of bed, it's probably a sign that it needs the sleep. So just take that into consideration. Obviously not discrediting the other 4 or 5 things I've mentioned today, but thinking about, okay, am I pushing myself a little too hard this season? How can I delegate something to somebody else so I have less on my plate and really support your body during this time? So I know there's a lot covered there. I talked about a lot. If you have questions, you're always welcome to reach out to me through social media or text or email. If you want to follow along with my life outside of the podcast, you can find me at Nourish with Bailey on Instagram and TikTok. I don't really post a lot on TikTok, but I guess I do have an account there. And my email is bailey-seaton@outlook.com. Message me, let me know what you thought of this episode. If you haven't yet, don't forget to leave a rating and a review on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I'm drawing for the Wellness Bundle giveaway at the end of the year, which is just going to be a box packed with all of the wellness tools that I love and use almost daily. And if you want additional entries, you can repost that you're listening to the podcast on your story or social media and just send it over to me or tag me so I can see it and I'll get you entered additionally. With that, let's go ahead and get into the prayer request segment of today's episode. I had a couple prayer requests get submitted this week. The first one is for my brother's future baby girl. Someone submitted that one. And then another one was for our creative juices to flow and our small businesses to flourish. I absolutely second that one. During these months, there's so much bombardment of buy from everyone. There's all these sales going. Don't forget about your small businesses, and also don't forget to take care of yourself and your health during this time. This is not me pitching anything, but I think when we have to buy products for other people during Christmas, we neglect our own bodies and don't recognize that also investing in your health is a worthy investment. So just wanted to put that out there, but let's go ahead and close in prayer. So dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for the sunshine and the good weather that we've been having recently. Nothing too extreme yet. Thank you for whoever is listening to this episode and that they just feel comforted and supported in their health journey from this episode and are eager to get into these colder months to support their body and that they feel like they have the tools to do that. I would ask that you would be with all of the babies that are being born during this season and that they are just happy and healthy. I'd pray that you'd also be with all of the people who have small businesses right now and that they just feel creative and inspired during this season, and that they also, in addition to that, notice that in return their businesses flourish and that they have success in whatever that looks like for them, but also that they take time to rest during this time and that we all truly listen to our bodies and what it needs, if it needs more nutrient-dense foods, if it needs more sleep, if it needs to sweat and exercise, if it needs to add in more herbs that are going to support our immunity. Whatever that is, I just ask that we enter the season with feelings of positivity and not dread, and that we all just have a very safe and happy and healthy holiday as Christmas is coming and as we leave Thanksgiving, that we just really lean on family and friends when we need them during this time. I just, again, am so thankful for the opportunity to have this outlet to talk so openly, and thank you for the gift that this has been for me. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. All right, so with that, I will talk to you again next Wednesday. Bye.